First steps. The silver dropship descended through Earth's atmosphere with impossible grace, its organic curves catching the morning sunlight like liquid mercury. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the forefront of the welcoming delegation, her heart racing despite years of preparation for this moment. As Earth's leading xenobiologist and cultural liaison, she had been chosen to represent humanity in its first extended contact with the luminary civilization. The ship settled onto the landing pad with barely a whisper, its surface rippling like disturbed water before becoming still. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, a section of the hull simply dissolved, revealing a tall, elegant figure that seemed to float rather than walk down the newly formed ramp. Ambassador Zara Vex of the Luminari stood nearly 7 feet tall, with crystalline skin that shifted colors like the aurora borealis. Their form was humanoid but more refined, as if sculpted by an artist with an eye for mathematical perfection. What truly caught Sarah's attention, though, were their eyes, deep pools of swirling silver that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Greetings, Dr. Chen," Zara Vex spoke, their voice carrying musical undertones that made English sound like poetry. "I trust my arrival finds you well." Sarah smiled, bowing slightly as she'd been instructed. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We're honored by your presence." "The honor is mutual," Zara Vex replied, their head tilting slightly as they studied Sarah with obvious curiosity. "Your species has achieved much in such a short time. It is fascinating." As they walked toward the newly constructed diplomatic center, Sarah noticed how Zara Vex observed everything with intense interest. The way the grass bent in the wind, the flight patterns of nearby birds, even the expressions on the faces of the human security detail. Inside the private meeting room, Zara Vex turned to Sarah with unexpected directness. "Dr. Chen, my people have studied humanity extensively, yet we find ourselves unable to fully comprehend certain aspects of your species. You operate on principles that seem to defy logic, yet achieve remarkable results. How do you reconcile such contradictions?" Sarah considered her response carefully. Perhaps what appears illogical at first glance has its own kind of wisdom. Humans often find strength in our apparent contradictions. Fascinating. Zara Vex's skin shifted to a deeper blue, which Sarah had learned indicated deep thought. "My primary mission here is to understand these apparent contradictions. For instance, how do humans maintain both individual identity and group cohesion? How do you balance emotion with reason? These concepts are challenging for my people to grasp." Sarah smiled warmly. "Understanding those aspects of humanity is a journey, Ambassador, one I'd be honored to help you undertake. Please," the ambassador's skin rippled with shades of gold, "call me Zara. I believe this exchange will require a more personal approach than traditional diplomatic relations." As their conversation continued, Sarah found herself drawn into deep discussions about human nature, culture, and the fundamental differences between their species. Zara's questions were probing but thoughtful, demonstrating a genuine desire to understand rather than judge. Cultural exchange. The weeks following first contact brought a whirlwind of activity to the International Cultural Exchange Center. Sarah found herself spending long hours with Zara, whose curiosity about human culture seemed boundless. Today, they stood in the center's art gallery, where Sarah had arranged a special exhibition of human creativity through the ages. These works were created without any practical purpose. Zara asked, their crystalline form reflecting rainbow patterns as they studied a Van Gogh painting. "They serve no functional role in your society." Sarah shook her head, watching how the ambient light played across Zara's translucent features. "Art isn't about function, Zara. It's about expression, emotion, and sharing our perspective of the world with others." "But why dedicate such resources to creating something that cannot be measured or quantified?" Zara's skin rippled with patterns that Sarah had come to recognize as confusion. "Because not everything valuable can be measured," Sarah replied, leading them to a piano in the corner of the gallery. "Here, let me show you something." Sarah sat at the piano and began playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. The melancholic notes filled the space, and she noticed Zara's form becoming completely still, a rare occurrence for their species. As the music continued, subtle waves of color began flowing across Zara's surface, matching the rhythm of the piece. When the last note faded, Zara remained silent for several moments. "I experienced something unusual during your performance," they finally said. "A sensation I cannot quantify. It was as if the mathematical patterns in the music created an emotional response that my species typically suppresses." "That's the power of art," Sarah explained, smiling. "It bridges the gap between logic and emotion, between thought and feeling." Later that day, in the botanical gardens, Zara shared insights about their own civilization. The Luminari achieved technological supremacy by eliminating emotional variables from our decision-making processes, they explained. "We operate as a collective, each individual contributing to the greater whole without the complications of personal desires or attachments." "But doesn't that limit your potential?" Sarah asked, watching a butterfly land on a nearby flower. "Human innovation often comes from our desires, our dreams, even our mistakes." "Perhaps," Zara admitted, their skin shifting to a contemplative shade of violet. "We have noticed that despite your species' relative youth, you have developed solutions to problems that our purely logical approach never conceived. It is intriguing." As weeks turned into months, Sarah noticed subtle changes in Zara's behavior. They began asking more personal questions, showing interest in individual human stories rather than just broad societal patterns. During one evening discussion, Zara surprised Sarah with an unexpected request. "Would you teach me about human friendship?" they asked, their normally composed voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. "I observe the connections between humans, the way you support and understand each other. It seems beneficial in ways I had not previously considered." Sarah felt a warm smile spread across her face. "Friendship isn't something that can be taught through lectures or data analysis, Sarah. It's something that develops naturally through shared experiences and mutual understanding." Then perhaps Zara's surface shimmered with what Sarah had come to recognize as hope. "We could begin that process. For research purposes, of course." "Of course," Sarah agreed, trying to hide her amusement. "For research." As their cultural exchange continued, news of their growing friendship spread through both human and luminary channels. Not everyone approved. Some humans feared the influence of an emotionless alien species, while certain luminari believed their ambassador was being compromised by excessive exposure to human irrationality. But Sarah and Zara continued their work, believing that understanding between their species was worth any criticism they might face. They were building something unprecedented, a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of experiencing the universe. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the center's observation deck, Zara made an observation that showed just how far they'd come. "I believe I understand now why humans find this daily occurrence so captivating," they said, their form reflecting the golden light. "It is not merely about the physics of planetary rotation or the scattering of photons through the atmosphere. It is about the experience itself, unique, temporary, and beautiful precisely because it cannot be fully captured or quantified." Sarah nodded, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. "That's exactly it, Zara. Sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we can't measure." Breaking barriers. A tense atmosphere filled the International Cultural Exchange Center's conference room. On one side sat the Human Oversight Committee, their faces stern and worried. On the other, a holographic projection showed the Luminary High Council, their crystalline forms pulsing with colors that Sarah had learned to recognize as disapproval. "Dr. Chen," began Admiral Thompson, his voice grave, "there are concerns about the unconventional nature of your cultural exchange with Ambassador Zara Vex. Some feel the lines between professional diplomacy and personal involvement have become blurred." Before Sarah could respond, a member of the Luminary Council spoke, their form flickering with sharp edges of crimson. Ambassador Zara Vex, your recent reports show concerning deviations from standard luminary protocols. You appear to be adopting human behavioral patterns that could compromise your objectivity. Zara stood perfectly still, their surface a calm sea of deep blue. With respect, Council, these deviations have led to unprecedented insights into human nature. Understanding cannot be achieved through pure observation. It requires engagement, experience. Experience does not necessitate emotional involvement. Another council member interrupted, their tone carrying harmonics of warning. Sarah watched as Zara's form wriggled with subtle patterns she'd never seen before. Frustration, perhaps. She decided to speak up. "If I may," she began, addressing both groups, "our progress in building understanding between our species has been precisely because we've moved beyond traditional diplomatic boundaries." Admiral Thompson leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, we're not questioning the results, but the methods. There are protocols. Protocols that were designed without accounting for the unique nature of our species' differences," Sarah countered. "The luminary operate on logic and collective consciousness. Humans function through emotional intelligence and individual connections. Finding middle ground requires new approaches." The room fell silent as both sides considered her words. Finally, a senior member of the Luminary Council spoke, their form shimmering with what Sarah had come to recognize as curiosity. "Explain how this emotional engagement has benefited our understanding." Zara stepped forward, their surface now displaying complex patterns that seemed to bridge luminary precision and human expressiveness. "Through my interactions with Dr. Chen, I have gained insights that pure data analysis could never provide. I understand now that human inefficiency, their emotional responses, their individual variations, is not a weakness but a source of strength. It drives innovation, creates resilience, and enables adaptability in ways our logical processes cannot match." Sarah noticed subtle changes in the council members' colors as Zora continued. "Moreover, I have discovered that embracing some degree of emotional awareness does not compromise logical thinking, it enhances it. The human capacity to balance reason and feeling is not a contradiction to be resolved, but a harmony to be understood." Admiral Thompson rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "And what concrete benefits have come from this understanding?" Sarah activated a holographic display showing various collaborative projects between humans and Luminary. "Since implementing our new approach to cultural exchange, we've seen a 300% increase in successful joint ventures. Human creativity combined with luminary precision has led to breakthroughs in everything from sustainable energy to space exploration." Furthermore, Zara added, their form pulsing with confident blues and golds, "Our trading partnerships have become more efficient as luminary representatives learn to account for human emotional factors in negotiations. We are not compromising our nature, we are expanding it." The meeting continued for hours, with both sides raising concerns and challenges. But as the discussion progressed, it became clear that the results of Sarah and Zora's unprecedented friendship couldn't be ignored. Their willingness to break traditional barriers had opened new possibilities for both species. As the committees finally adjourned to deliberate, Sarah and Zara found themselves alone in the observation lounge, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. "That was intense," Sarah said, allowing herself to relax slightly. Zara's surface rippled with what might have been amusement. "Indeed, though I find it interesting that both our species share a resistance to change, despite their different reasons for it." Sarah smiled. "Change is scary, even for beings of pure logic, it seems." "Perhaps especially for beings of pure logic," Zara responded, their form shifting to reflect the starlight. "We fear what we cannot fully understand or control. But through our friendship, I have learned that understanding does not always require control." As they stood together, watching the night sky, Sarah realized they had created something entirely new, a way of being that was neither purely human nor purely luminary, but a bridge between both worlds. Whatever challenges lay ahead, They had proved that different species could not only coexist, but grow stronger together. Crisis point. The emergency alarm shattered the pre-dawn quiet at the International Cultural Exchange Center. Sarah rushed to the command center, her heart pounding. The massive display screens showed a terrifying sight. A massive solar flare, far larger than anything recorded in human history, was heading directly toward Earth. Zara was already there, the crystalline form pulsing with rapid patterns of deep purple and crimson. Our long-range sensors detected it first, they explained, their usually melodic voice carrying harmonics of urgency. The electromagnetic pulse will be devastating to both our civilization's technology. The room buzzed with activity as human scientists and luminary observers worked frantically to assess the situation. Dr. Jenkins, Earth's leading solar physicist, looked up from his calculations with a grim expression. Our planetary shields aren't strong enough to handle this magnitude of solar radiation. We're looking at worldwide technological failure, possibly worse. The Luminari have superior shielding technology, one of the military officers suggested. Perhaps. Our planetary defense systems are designed for our home world's specific requirements, Zara interrupted, their form rippling with complex patterns. They would not be compatible with Earth's magnetosphere without significant modifications. Sarah watched the chaos unfolding around her, her mind racing. Then something clicked. What if we combine our technologies, she suggested, human adaptability with luminary precision? Zara's surface shifted to a contemplative blue. Elaborate. Your shields are more advanced, but our systems are more flexible and adaptable. What if we could integrate them? Use your precision to enhance our coverage and our adaptability to make your technology compatible with Earth's magnetic field. The room fell silent as both species considered the possibility. Dr. Jenkins was the first to speak. It's never been done before. The technological gap between our species is exactly why it might work, Sarah interrupted. We each have what the other lacks. Zara's form pulsed with rapid calculations. The time frame is extremely limited. We would have less than 6 hours to implement such a solution. Then we better get started, Sarah replied, already moving toward the engineering bay. What followed was an unprecedented collaboration between humans and Luminari. While Luminari engineers worked with mathematical precision to modify their shielding technology, human scientists used their intuitive problem-solving skills to find creative ways to make the alien technology compatible with Earth's systems. Zara and Sarah worked side by side, bridging the communication gap between the two species. When luminary precision threatened to bog down progress with endless calculations, Sarah pushed for intuitive leaps. When human enthusiasm threatened to create dangerous shortcuts, Zara provided crucial stability. The shield harmonics aren't aligning, a luminary engineer reported, their form flickering with frustration. The mathematical variables are too unstable. That's because you're trying to force Earth's magnetic field to behave like your home world, Sarah explained. We need to work with its natural fluctuations, not against them. Zara's surface rippled with sudden understanding. Like music, they said, surprising everyone. When I first heard you play the piano, Sarah, I learned that beauty can exist in imperfect patterns. Perhaps we need to approach this less like a mathematical equation and more like a symphony. The luminary engineers looked skeptical, but began adjusting their calculations to account for Earth's natural electromagnetic rhythm. Slowly, the shield harmonics began to align. With less than an hour to spare, they activated the hybrid shield system. The sky above Earth shimmered with a beautiful aurora-like display as human and luminary technology worked in concert to protect the planet. When the solar flare hit, the combined shield held. The devastating electromagnetic pulse was deflected, transformed into a spectacular light show that illuminated the sky for hours. In the aftermath, as both species celebrated their success, Sarah found Zara in the observation lounge, their form reflecting the still shimmering sky. You used a musical analogy, Sarah said, smiling. That's not very luminary of you. Zora's surface rippled with what Sarah now recognized as amusement. Perhaps not, but it was effective. Sometimes the best solutions come from embracing apparent contradictions rather than trying to resolve them. Like a human and a luminary becoming friends? Sarah suggested. Indeed, Zora replied, their form glowing warmly. Our differences are not obstacles to be overcome, but strengths to be combined. Today proved that. As they watched the hybrid shield continue its protective dance above Earth, both knew that something profound had changed. The crisis hadn't just been averted, it had transformed both species' understanding of what was possible when they worked together. Bridge between worlds. In the months following the solar flare crisis, the International Cultural Exchange Center transformed from a diplomatic outpost into a bustling hub of human luminary collaboration. The successful fusion of their technologies had opened doors that neither species had imagined possible. Sarah stood in the newly constructed Harmony Hall, watching as human and luminary students worked together at various learning stations. The vast chamber represented everything she and Zara had worked toward, a space where both species could learn from each other's strengths. Remarkable, Zara said, appearing beside her. Their crystalline form had developed new patterns over the past months, subtle combinations of human expressiveness and luminary precision. A year ago, the idea of such direct collaboration would have been considered dangerous by both our peoples. Sarah nodded, watching a young human artist working with a luminary engineer to create a new form of interactive sculpture. Fear of differences can be powerful, she replied, but curiosity and understanding can be even stronger. The learning exchange program had been their idea, born from the lessons learned during the crisis. Humans taught luminary about creativity, intuition, and emotional intelligence, while luminary shared their knowledge of advanced mathematics, technology, and logical problem-solving. Ambassador Zara Vex, a young human student, approached, holding what appeared to be a hybrid of human and luminary musical instruments. We've been working on combining Earth's harmonic principles with luminary resonance patterns. Would you like to hear it? Zara's surface rippled with interest, a response that would have been unthinkable for a luminary months ago. Please proceed. The resulting performance filled the hall with otherworldly music, mathematical precision blending with human emotion to create something entirely new. Sarah noticed other students stopping their work to listen, both species equally captivated by the fusion of their cultures. Later that day, during a meeting with the Joint Oversight Committee, Sarah and Zara presented the results of their cultural exchange initiative. The data was impressive. Technological advancement had accelerated by 200%, while conflicts between the species had decreased by 85%. But the most significant changes can't be quantified, Sarah explained to the committee. We're seeing evolution in how both species think and solve problems. Humans are learning to temper emotional reactions with logical analysis, while luminary are discovering the value of intuitive leaps and creative thinking. Zora stepped forward, their form displaying complex patterns that reflected their growth. Our species once believed that our differences made cooperation impossible. We now understand that these very differences, when properly understood and respected, create possibilities neither of us could achieve alone. The success of their program led to expansion. Similar cultural exchange centers began opening around the world. The luminary, traditionally hesitant to share their advanced technology, began working with human scientists to develop new innovations that combined both species' approaches. One evening, as they watched the sunset from their favorite spot in the observation lounge, Sarah noticed something unusual about Zara's appearance. "Your form," she said. "It's different." Zara's surface rippled with what Sarah had come to recognize as pride. "Yes, our scientists have been studying human emotional expressions. We've developed a way to modify our crystalline structure to better convey emotional states while maintaining our logical processes. It is an evolution." "Voluntary evolution," Sarah mused. "That's quite a step for your species." as is humans' increasing ability to incorporate logical analysis into their emotional responses, Zara replied. We are both growing, learning from each other without losing what makes us unique. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. The Luminary High Council and Earth's governing body had reached a historic decision. Based on the success of the Cultural Exchange Program, they were establishing a permanent Joint Species Council, with Sarah and Zara nominated as its first co-chairs. They want us to expand the program across all areas of interaction between our species, Sarah said, reading the details. Scientific research, artistic exchange, technological development. A bridge between worlds, Zara added, their form glowing with subtle colors that matched the sunset, built on understanding rather than fear of differences. As they stood together, watching the stars emerge, both felt the weight of what they had achieved. Through their friendship, they had shown both species a new way forward, one that embraced diversity as a source of strength rather than a barrier to overcome. New horizons. 10 years after first contact, the joint human luminary space station, Harmony, orbited Earth, its revolutionary design a testament to what both species could achieve together. The station's crystalline spires merged seamlessly with human-engineered modules, creating a structure that was both beautiful and groundbreaking. Sarah stood in the station's central observatory, her hair now streaked with gray, watching Earth rotate below. The planet looked different now, its cities gleaming with a distinctive shimmer of hybrid technology, while vast areas had been restored to natural beauty through combined conservation efforts. Still finding new details to observe, Zara asked, joining her. Their crystalline form had evolved significantly over the decade, now capable of displaying subtle emotional cues while maintaining luminary precision. They were no longer just an ambassador, but a pioneer of what their species could become. Every day, Sarah replied, smiling. Though today I'm thinking about how far we've come. The station buzzed with activity as the final preparations were made for humanity's most ambitious project yet, the first joint deep space exploration mission. The ship, named Unity, represented the pinnacle of human luminary cooperation, combining luminary faster-than-light technology with human adaptability and problem-solving. The launch ceremony begins in 1 hour, Zara noted, their form displaying patterns of anticipation. The crew is ready. The crew itself was revolutionary, humans and luminary working together as equals, each chosen for their ability to bridge both cultures. They would be the first to test the new hybrid technologies in deep space, seeking out new civilizations with the wisdom gained from their own successful first contact. During the ceremony, Sarah and Zara stood together as co-chairs of the Joint Species Council, watching as the Unity prepared for its historic journey. The ship itself was beautiful, its hull a seamless blend of crystalline lattices and traditional human engineering, capable of adapting to unknown challenges in ways neither species could have achieved alone. 10 years ago, Sarah addressed the gathered crowd. Many believed our species were too different to ever truly understand each other. Today, we launch a ship that proves otherwise. Unity carries with it not just our combined technology, but our shared dream of exploration and discovery. Zara stepped forward, their form radiating dignified pride. We have learned that true strength lies not in overcoming differences, but in embracing them. This ship carries the best of both our species, luminary precision and human creativity, our logic and your passion, our technology and your adaptability. As the countdown began, Sarah reflected on their journey. The cultural exchange centers had expanded across the globe, fostering new generations of humans and luminary who moved comfortably between both cultures. Art, science, technology, all had been transformed by their cooperation. Look, Zara said softly, pointing to a young human and luminary working together at a control station. The human was teaching the luminary a traditional earth game during a quiet moment, while the luminary's form rippled with genuine amusement. That would have been unthinkable when we first met. The Unity's engines hummed to life, the sound a perfect harmony of human and luminary engineering. As the ship prepared to depart, its crew sent one final message. To Earth and Luminara, we carry your unity to the stars. The launch was flawless, the ship rising on a beam of light before disappearing into the depths of space. But this was just the beginning. Already, plans were underway for more joint missions, new technological innovations, and deeper cultural exchanges. What do you think we'll find out there? Sarah asked, watching the point where Unity had vanished. Zora's form shifted through contemplative patterns. Unknown variables, they replied, then added with a distinctly unluminary touch of humor. But I believe we've proven that unknown doesn't mean impossible. As they stood together, watching the stars that their joint mission now explored, both reflected on how their unlikely friendship had changed not just their own lives, but the course of both their species. They had shown that differences could be bridges rather than barriers, that understanding could overcome fear, and that the greatest achievements come not from erasing what makes us unique, but from celebrating it. The Unity's mission marked not an ending, but a beginning, a promise of what could be achieved when different species chose to learn from each other rather than fear each other. As Human and Luminari worked together on the station, their combined strengths reaching for the stars, they'd proved that the greatest frontier wasn't space itself, but the endless possibilities that arose when diverse peoples chose to build bridges between their worlds. The end.